All right, everybody, how you doing? My name is Coffee Cancel. I'm doing my project on the Netflix TV series Kingdom. I'm gonna treat this like a director's cut commentary while we're watching the first episode because I don't know how many people have watched this show, and also I felt like film wise, this would be more of a creative way to present my project. So that way I wasn't kind of just doing the normal PowerPoint slide and reading slide by slide kind of boring style. So I hope you guys do enjoy this. Now, my goal is to do this as a compare and contrast with the zombie narratives we've studied in the semester, like Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, 28 Days Later. I'm focusing on two core questions. What kind of zombies does the show give us? And what early zombie models do they resemble? And then how does the show's story work similarly or even differently from the zombie text we've covered? Like the differentiation between a lot of these shows is very significant, especially because like this show specifically, like it takes place in the Joseon era of Korea, right? So we got a whole different culture, timeline, all this stuff to consider here, versus like a lot of the other films that we normally watch, are more like post-apocalyptic, modern day, it has a different kind of tone and pace to it, right? So that's just something I wanted to put out right there. So that like definitely, gives us a different angle of the story. We don't have modern weapons or modern medicine or even modern media like the TV broadcasting, that's, it explains what's happening around the world, and a lot of the other stuff we've seen. And instead, we have a monarchy, a strict class hierarchy, and a social instability that's already present. You know what I mean? There's famine, there's poverty, and there's a ruling structure that controls all the information and that which is being, set around the towns. Like even in this part right here, the young child is told by the master not to look at the emperor, I believe this is, because we get hints that that's the emperor. And there's something that he's also messing with that we see. It looks like he's trying to conduct like some kind of medicinal cure or ailment or something to help. And we noticed that his majesty, as the dude just said, is when he starts showing certain signs of like suspicious activity. That's when we start noticing like, wait a minute, is the emperor a zombie or something? Like that's where we get the first signs of like zombified like identification within the show, like, you know what I mean, the first hint of it. And what is it called, the zombies, the entire society is already built on inequality, you know what I mean, for this show. And the framing immediately it connects like back to where we've talked about historical stuff, how zombie stories often reveal how society treats you know people as disposable and things like that. Also within this show, I think it's a nice way how they do a little play on how societies like that, how they were structured in this hierarchical status and monarchical status, like how the control and infectious disease was really from those in power and those that were supposed to show stability and authority and things like that, and they controlled majority of this stuff, especially the information being passed around and things like that. And how we'll see in the show, like there'll be a hint to a rumor, or not a hint, but there'll be showing of a rumor that like hints to like the emperor not being alive and like he's possibly dead and things like that, and they're trying to cover it up, and they start like even executing loyal servants who somehow let this happen on their watch and things like that. So we show that there's a strict like gap within society already. And like how the spreading of like this control or to keep control and things like that is similar to the spread of the zombie infestation or infection, I should say. But anyway, yeah. So on the, you know, kingdoms zombie types, right? I know that we haven't really seen nothing yet as, you know, we're watching this, but in this show the zombies are fast. They're violent, they're contagious in a way that feels closer to like 28 days later than like, you know, the classical zombies, you know what I mean? And you know, the more classical Romero zombies are more like slow. They're more focused on like you, and like they're more into like the dread and you know the tension that it builds. You know, Kingdom gives you more of like outbreak intensity. It's like the threat escalates quickly, and then like the crowds become dangerous. You know, zombies feel, you know, less slow walking dead and more like rapid like disasters that can collapse, you know, communities overnight. And that's another like special thing that we kind of see within this, you know, because there seems to be like certain rule structures that, you know, we have with the zombies in this show, you know? But Kingdom also has a unique like way that they show that even in the first episode. You know how like in the beginning we only noticed that the emperor starts displaying these actions at night, you know, and we can see even right now how it's daytime and it seems like there's more of a condition, you know what I mean, because of the day night cycle and how like there's not a threat during the daytime. And the show uses like the light time or the daytime, I should say, as a temporary calm, and then it displays like nighttime as an eruption. You know, that matters for pacing, and it creates a buildup in suspense. Like even if nothing's happening right now, the show reminds you it's coming. It's almost like a survival mechanism. Daylight is where people can move and investigate, and then the nighttime is where survival mode kicks in, and things turn into like barricades and panicking and, you know, violence from crowds and things like that because everyone's more on edge, you know. Now, I wanted to lock in on a specific element from this episode that really acts like a spin, you know, for the horror, because the medicine that we see the master, whoever that was in the beginning with the boy doing, that looks like that can be a big hint to something, you know, because early on the show introduces this as something secretive, you know, something you're not even supposed to be like looking at, you know. And from the storyline presented in the film aspect, that's a classic setup. It's basically the show quickly telling us this is like the thing that will cause everything. And then, you know, the plant or medicine, herb, whatever it was, it functions differently than organisms, you know what I'm saying, in other zombie stories, as we've seen. Because let's just say the cause is like vague. You know what I mean? Like the rumors, but not clear, objective to the point, you know? Like, all right, so like in 28 days later, the cause is clearly biological. You know, it's a biological infection. Rage, you know, like rage is a virus. In the kingdom, the outbreak is tied to a political medical decision. You know what I mean? Because this becomes like a tool used by people who want to control life and death. You know, they're using it as control, especially in connection to the emperor. That's like the big, you know, difference here. This isn't just like nature or science gone wrong. It's power trying to override reality. In this episode, we clearly see like the build of the horror through the secrecy. The king is hidden. Information is controlled, as we just clearly saw, because people are being, you know, persecuted and tortured for the spread of this information. You know, access is restricted. The show isn't only telling a zombie story, it's telling a story about society where truth is managed. That's where the differentiation starts here. From like Night of the Living Dead. In Night of the Living Dead, the crisis becomes public and is discussed through media. The characters hear updates, explanations, warnings. In the kingdom, the crisis is contained by the elite. It's, you know what I mean? Like, the audience is meant to feel that the palace is it's almost like a pressure cooker. It's like they got something that they're hiding there, and something's about to like blow up in everybody's face. You know what I mean? Because they even said if you wanted to see like the corruption, the evil, and all this other stuff, when you saw like the hate and fear and frustration in the other man's eyes when they were torturing him, it was like he was like, look into the royal family and stuff. You know, like that kind of stuff. You know, it drives, you know, those hard narrative like key points in guiding the audience through the story and what they're specifically trying to tell us within the story. In the show, the medication or the ailment or the thing that the gentleman has in the beginning, which kind of ties into like what probably is causing this or may have caused this or helped cause this or whatever the case is, it's like the perfect, you know, symbol to show, you know, control and, you know, how to like keep people in the dark and use it as power. And the outbreak starts from like secrecy, like we're noticing, and manipulation, and not from random chance. So even before we get full, you know, infection and breakout, the episode already establishes that these kind of zombies in the narrative is not just a survival horror, but it's like a historical political horror where the zombies expose the structure of the society. That's why Kingdom is a strong comparison, an example of zombie influence after 1990. It provides this great zombie style flexibility that you can move into a historical setting, you know, and it changes the rules, and the zombies still function as a mirror. It still shows what people are afraid of, you know, it still shows collapse, contagion, you know, the most importantly, you know, who gets left behind when the system decides that somebody matters more than somebody else. You know, it really shows a very clear dynamic within political and social structures, and how zombies are like a representation of how we attack ourselves due to different, you know, ideologies and constructs and beliefs and things of that nature. But yeah, I hope that everybody kind of liked this. I personally enjoyed this, and I do think that this is something that we all should really look into if we haven't seen this show. So that way, like, we can really see different ideologies of the impact that, you know, the messaging of the film and TV show gives us with these different styles of zombie horror. You know, and if you guys haven't seen this one, there's another one also that you guys should watch. I forgot what it was called, but it's on Netflix as well. But it kind of really gives me like High School of the Dead. So it's another Korean zombie show. But I'm just saying that because like I know a lot of Korean shows out there lately have been coming up, and Korean zombie shows have like this very like unique and different take on the genre. So again, my name's Coffee, and this was my presentation on the Kingdom for our class here in Zombie on Screen. And I appreciate you guys. I'm sorry that it was a little longer than expected, but thank you. And yeah.